In the Soviet Union, some deaths were more secret than others. The story goes that in the fall of 1957, an entire shift of workers at a hidden weapons plant vanished. Their families were told they died in car crashes or from a sudden illness. Officially, these men and the true number of casualties was scrubbed from the public record. But they didn't just vanish. They were victims of a colossal radioactive explosion, a nuclear catastrophe the Kremlin would spend the next 30 years trying to erase from history. This is the story of the disaster they covered up and the people whose deaths were hidden from the world. An event that, until Chernobyl, was arguably the worst nuclear accident in human history. Our story starts deep in the Ural Mountains, in a place that didn't appear on any maps. It was called Chelyabinsk, 40, one of the Soviet Union's closed cities, and inside its guarded perimeter was the Mayak Production Association, the heart of the entire Soviet nuclear weapons program. Built in the frantic, paranoid years after World War II, Mayak had one job: make weapons-grade plutonium. The Cold War was heating up, and Moscow demanded bombs, lots of them, and they wanted them fast. This relentless pressure meant production quotas steamrolled every other concern, especially safety. The scientists at Mayak were brilliant, but they were working with terrifying new technology on impossible deadlines. So corners were cut, risks were taken, and radioactive waste, the deadly byproduct of it all, began to pile up. For years, the plant's solution was shockingly simple, and simply shocking. They just dumped high-level radioactive waste directly into the nearby Teka River. Downstream, villages used that river for everything: drinking, washing, fishing. People started getting sick with mysterious illnesses. Radiation poisoning was taking a quiet toll, but this was just the slow-burning fuse for the catastrophe to come. By the mid-1950s, the plant built a more permanent solution: massive underground concrete vaults, each holding steel tanks filled with 80 tons of liquid nuclear waste. Buried 8 meters underground, these tanks had cooling systems to handle the intense heat from radioactive decay. They were, in every sense of the word, a ticking time bomb, and nobody was listening for the tick. September 29th, 1957. It was a Sunday. Deep underground, the cooling system in one of the tanks had failed. It had apparently been broken for over a year. Either no one noticed, or no one had the nerve to halt operations to fix it. Inside that tank, the radioactive sludge was seething. Without the coolant, the decay heat climbed relentlessly. The liquid waste boiled away, leaving behind a volatile, dried cake of nitrate and acetate salts. The temperature inside the sealed container shot past 350 degrees Celsius. At 4:22 p.m., the inevitable happened. The dried waste ignited in a massive chemical explosion, not a nuclear chain reaction, but a conventional blast with the force of 70 to 100 tons of TNT. The explosion was powerful enough to blow the 1-meter-thick, 160-ton concrete lid clean off the silo, launching it 25 meters away. The blast wave shredded nearby buildings and sent a towering plume of radioactive poison high into the atmosphere. As evening fell, people in nearby towns looked up and saw an eerie, beautiful sight. The sky was filled with strange, shimmering bluish-violet colors. The regional newspaper, under strict orders, quickly reported it as a rare sighting of the northern lights. But it wasn't the aurora. It was the sky itself, glowing with deadly radionuclides, strontium-90 and cesium-137 being carried northeast by the wind. A silent, invisible cloud began to drift across 20,000 square kilometers, an area home to more than 270,000 unsuspecting people. The Kremlin's first response wasn't to warn its citizens, but to launch one of the most thorough cover-ups in history. The Kyshtym disaster, as it would later be called, was immediately classified as a state secret. Its very existence was denied. The immediate casualties inside the plant were the first to be hidden. While official Soviet reports would later claim 0 instant fatalities, the reality for the workers was far grimmer. In the days and weeks that followed, a number of them would succumb to acute radiation syndrome. Their deaths weren't recorded as part of the accident. Instead, official documents listed causes like car accidents or pneumonia. They were systematically erased from the tragedy they were at the center of. For over 30 years, their families got false stories, were sworn to secrecy, or were simply left with no answers at all. The secrecy spread far beyond the plant's walls. For the thousands of people in the path of the radioactive plume, life went on as normal for a full week. Then, the evacuations began slow, chaotic, and shrouded in total mystery. Residents from over 22 towns were given just hours to grab what they could. They were ordered to slaughter their livestock, bury their crops, and abandon their homes forever. No one told them the real reason why. Entire villages were later bulldozed and buried, literally wiped off the map to hide the contamination. Then, in 1968, the Soviet government did something truly devious. They designated the most heavily contaminated zone, a nature reserve, the East Ural Nature Reserve. What was once a landscape of farms and villages became a sanctuary, officially for scientific study. In reality, it was a fence, a way to keep people out, and to hide the poisoned earth from the prying eyes of the world. And the silence wasn't just on the Soviet side. Declassified documents later revealed that the CIA knew about the disaster from U-2 spy plane photos, but they kept it a secret too. Why? Because at the height of the Cold War, Washington was afraid that revealing a Soviet nuclear accident would stir up public fear and opposition to America's own growing nuclear industry. In a bizarre twist of Cold War logic, the CIA effectively helped the KGB maintain its wall of silence. History is full of stories that were never meant to be told, erased by those in power. If you believe these forgotten histories deserve a voice, take a moment to subscribe and join us as we continue to uncover the secrets of the past. While governments conspired to hide the truth, the people of the Chelyabinsk region paid the price. The fallout settled into the soil, the water, and the food. For those who weren't evacuated, life became a slow-motion tragedy. Children were born with severe birth defects. Cancer rates skyrocketed. A condition known as chronic radiation syndrome became widespread. Doctors were forbidden from diagnosing radiation-related illnesses. Patients showing clear signs of radiation exposure were scattered across different hospitals to keep anyone from connecting the dots. Personal stories from that time paint a harrowing picture. One woman recalled losing a baby to birth defects, while family members who worked at Mayak knew the cause but were too terrified to say a word. Another man, born downstream from the plant, spent his entire adult life fighting the government, just trying to prove that the plague of illnesses in his community was a direct result of the state's negligence. And then there were the liquidators, the cleanup crews sent into the contaminated zone. Many were young soldiers, given little to no protective gear and zero information about the invisible poison they were wading into. They were part of a secret effort to decontaminate buildings and bury tons of radioactive soil in what were grimly called graveyards of the earth. They were heroes who were never acknowledged, and many would later die from cancer, their sacrifice completely unrecorded. For more than 2 decades, the Kyshtym disaster was a ghost story, a rumor whispered among a few scientists. The first real crack in the wall of silence came in 1976. A dissident Soviet biologist named Georgy Medvedev, exiled in London, published an article in New Scientist magazine. He detailed what he knew about a massive nuclear catastrophe that had killed and sickened hundreds in the Urals back in the late 50s. The Western nuclear establishment immediately dismissed his claims as science fiction and anti-nuclear propaganda. They just couldn't believe a disaster of that magnitude could have been kept secret for so long. But Medvedev kept at it, piecing together the truth from obscure Soviet scientific papers on radioecology, using the state's own censored data against them. Still, the official denial held strong. It wasn't until 1989, in the new era of glasnost and with the world's attention on Chernobyl, that the truth finally came out. During a meeting with the International Atomic Energy Agency, a Soviet official casually admitted that, yes, there had been an incident near Kyshtym in 1957. After 32 years, the secret was out. Survivors and declassified documents began to emerge, finally confirming the scale of the tragedy that Georgy Medvedev had tried to expose a decade earlier. The Kyshtym disaster is rated a level 6 on the International Nuclear Event Scale. That makes it the third worst nuclear accident in history, surpassed only by the level 7 events at Chernobyl and Fukushima. But unlike those disasters, which the world watched unfold, Kyshtym was a catastrophe that was deliberately erased. It wasn't just an industrial accident, it was a profound moral failure. A failure of a system that valued its secrets more than its own citizens. The story of the workers whose deaths were covered up, of the thousands forced from their homes, and the tens of thousands exposed to radiation without their knowledge, is a chilling reminder of the cost of unchecked power. The East Ural radioactive trace remains one of the most contaminated places on Earth. And the Mayak plant, incredibly, is still operating today. The story of Kyshtym is a warning. It's a warning about the histories that get buried, the victims who are forgotten, and the terrifying consequences that unfold when the truth is silenced.